This $80 X99 monster board just saved my whole studio setup. I'm Jeffrey Curtis, and this is Vlogtastrophe. My studio rig died. The SSD literally crumbled in my hands. My backups, just files. No system image. This $80 dual Xeon board was the only thing that stood between me and losing everything. In this video, I'll show you how we rebuilt a professional music workstation from the edge of failure. Using a knockoff X99 motherboard from China, Linux tools, and raw grit. You'll learn how to do the same. This started when all of a sudden I was working on my computer and it went black. Then when I got it to come back on, the drive wasn't recognized. When I pulled the M.2 out and tried it in an external container, still no luck. Then, when I took the heatsink off, oops, the chip literally fell in my hand. Now I'm going to mail this back and see if they'll reimburse it, but until then we'll keep the brand name to ourselves. That's when I realized my only backup was folder level. No clone, no image, just raw files. This X99 dual Xeon boot cost me about 40 bucks. Used. It's not branded, it's Chinese, but it supports two E5 2698 version 3 CPUs and up to 128 gigabytes of RAM, which I've used. Perfect for running music apps, video editing, and handling plug-in loads. Since the old SSD was gone, I tried several different things to back up and recover the drives, the new drives. Now this is my office Windows computer. I also have a Mac that I use for mostly recording, but this one I use a lot for everything else. Since the old SSD was gone, I tried several different things. Mercurium, CloneZilla, a bunch of different stuff. The one that finally worked was RescueZilla, a Linux live recovery tool to boot the machine and to copy my backup files into the new NVMe drive. BIOS reset after BIOS reset. Many times it would kill my display. I'm running the GTX 990 on that one, and so it's an older video card that has lots of power, but it takes the legacy drivers. However, eventually, with the help of ChatGPT and a whole bunch of patience, we got it to boot. After copying the files, I reset the BIOS to factory defaults. That was my biggest mistake. The screen stayed black. Although I got an A6 code on the board and nothing else, I could see nothing. The A6 code means that it had booted into the BIOS, but it wasn't putting it out to the monitor. Eventually I ended up getting the rest of the codes that said that it would boot Windows, but every time I changed the settings in the BIOS, I would end up with a black screen. Eventually, I had to use this GTX 650, which seemed to be recognized no matter what, and I configured my computer using that. With the BIOS reset, I was able to copy the files. The fix was unexpected. Turns out the factory BIOS default disabled the display output from my GPU. I swapped in the old GPU and suddenly got the BIOS screen. Even with the BIOS accessed, the drive wouldn't boot. The NVMe showed in the device list, but not in boot options. The reason? My backup was on MBR, Master Boot Record. After fixing the BIOS, I was able to reboot, and finally, Windows came alive. It was all reinstalled, restored, my old programs from 6 months ago, my music files, my DAW files, my licenses were all intact. Here's what I learned about the X99. Always make a bootable clone, not just file backups. Don't reset the BIOS without saving your working config. These X99 boards are amazing, but quirky. Once set right, they run like tanks. Want to see the full studio? I'll give you a tour of what I built with this beast. The only problem is that these Xeon chips won't be covered by Windows 11. After I rebooted the drive, I came into two other problems. One was I needed to convert to GPT, and two, since the only backup I could find was an old hard drive that I had before I converted to M.2, it had the wrong partition structure. I was able to handle all this inside of RescueZilla. I was able to change the partition structure, move around the partition structure, and eventually, with ChatGPT's help, prepare it to convert GPT. None of the other ones would work well. Mercurium is great for backing up and restoring if everything's okay. And the little tool, mini tool thing that I tried, it had problems trying to change the partitions. Mainly because I had two partitions. The main partition was surrounded by two smaller partitions. So I had to move the recovery partition to the end of the drive in order to extend the main partition, which was a lot of work. In the end, the computer worked out pretty good. I'm using it today. I still have a small problem though. Every once in a while it freezes. If you have any ideas on how to fix a Windows 10 computer that likes to just get frozen, but we're working on it. I do want to say that ChatGPT through this whole thing was really valuable. ChatGPT gave me a little bit of a structure so that I could methodically go through the systems and fix it. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell. You know, we're trying to reach 1,000 followers on this channel. If you'd give us a hand, it sure would be appreciated. Thanks for being with us. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you later.